So the first question actually goes that do you remember when you heard metal music for the first time?
Yeah, in England, we had something called the Friday Night Rock Show with Tommy Vance. And it was great. But he did play what you would expect him to play: Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Def Leppard, the regular heavy metal. And I thought the most extreme thing he ever played was Motorhead, because they were pretty noisy. And for me, a bit too noisy. Then a friend of mine told me about an amazing nightclub, a rock club in Bradford in Yorkshire called the Frog and Toad, and we should go along. So I went there, and it was an eye-opener, because for the first couple of hours, the DJ played extreme music, which I had never heard because it's not for radio.
Yeah.
Or certainly wasn't for the BBC back when I was young. And the first thing I heard was Bathory.
Okay.
Yeah, the second album, The Return from Bathory. I thought Motorhead was extreme. And then when I heard this, my ears just went poof. And although I couldn't get into Motorhead because I thought they were a bit too noisy, when I heard Bathory, I thought it was unbelievable. I was amazed, absolutely amazed. The song was called Possessed. And I literally was. I'd never heard anything like it. It was so extreme. And the DJ always placed the vinyl at the front of his DJ booth so everyone could see what was being played.
Wow.
And I went up to him and I said, "What the hell is this? Who's Batlord?" Because I couldn't read the bloody logo. And he said, "No, this is a band from Sweden called Bathory." And I'd never heard anything like it. Then, of course, it was followed by Slayer, Metallica, Celtic Frost. And honestly, I couldn't believe this world existed. And this must have been about 1988, 1989.
Something like that, most likely.
Yeah, so all these bands were coming out with all this extreme music, and the scene, I didn't know the scene existed. I thought when I go to this nightclub, everyone will have an Iron Maiden t-shirt on, AC/DC t-shirt. They all had t-shirts on I'd never seen before because they were extreme bands. And that was a Friday night. On Saturday, I went to Leeds, the big city around here, and I went to a record store, and I didn't even look at the records. I went straight to the guy behind the counter and I said, "Have you got any Bathory?" And he said, "Yes." And he showed me to the extreme metal section, and I bought records and records and records, and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. My eyes were opened to a world I didn't know even existed. And I still enjoyed the Friday Night Rock Show with Tommy Vance, but it seemed a little bit lame all of a sudden compared to, the 100 miles an hour screaming and shouting I was now becoming more and more used to. I fell in love with it. I absolutely fell in love with it. A whole new movement. And I bought the T-shirts. And in fact, I worshipped Bathory so much that there was an address on the back of the album. And I just wrote to the address thinking nothing would happen. This is going nowhere. Because, of course, this is before the internet.
Yeah.
And I got a reply from Quorthon. And it was amazing. Nice. And I said to him, would it be okay if I formed a division of your official fan club here in Yorkshire called the Bradford Bathory Horde? And he said, yes, of course, that would be amazing. So I made membership cards, I made a magazine, and it grew, and it was absolutely amazing. And he would write me letters, he would type them out on an old-fashioned typewriter, and he used to write to me twice a year with updates about what Bathory were doing, and it was just absolutely incredible, and I was completely hooked.
Good times, because there were no internet to fuck these good traditions up.
Oh, it was brilliant. I still have the letters somewhere in the house, signed by Quorthon, and he sent me a poster, because apparently the first album was supposed to come with a poster, but most of them didn't. So he sent me the poster that should have been in it, which was great, and that was signed. And then he sent me a huge poster, which the band signed as well. It had 3 autographs on it, his and the other 2 members. I don't know if they really existed or not, but I still have that poster. The Bathory poster with 3 signatures on it, sent to me by Quorthon. It is a treasure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So was Battery like sort of band that made you become a musician and also pick up the microphone, or how did that happen for you?
It did in some extremes because I think I knew I couldn't really sing. I'm not Bruce Dickinson. I met Andrew and Calvin and Rick in the Frog and Toad, this amazing rock club, because we all started to wear the same T-shirts. We all were familiar with which band everybody liked. They could already play instruments. I couldn't play any instruments. And ordinarily, I would say, well, I can't sing either. You know, I can't do what Bruce Dickinson can do. However, listening to bands like Bathory and Slayer and Death, and I can't remember some of the other bands back then, Creator, Celtic Frost, I said to the guys, right, well, you guys can play instruments. I'm pretty sure I can scream and shout. So I'll be the singer. And that's how it happened.
The logical step.
Yeah, so we met the next day at a rehearsal room. We hired a rehearsal room, and I had never sung into a microphone ever. And the guys just played a couple of riffs. And when Rick started to play the drum really hard, I just went, and it worked. It absolutely worked. And everybody thought, brilliant, let's form a band. So if it wasn't for extreme vocalists, I don't think I would have ever become a vocalist, because I'm not good enough. I'm not like Bruce Dickinson. I can't sing the same notes. However, when I realized there was a whole scene of extreme vocalists, you don't have to hit the right notes. You just have to sound fucking awesome. That was it. I can't play an instrument. I'll do the screaming. And it worked.
So did you immediately started like writing your own music, or were you first sort of playing covers through and you were also like mimicking those vocalists, or how did you develop the voice?
I don't know how the voice came, because, as I say, I've never sung before, and this wasn't even singing. This was just yelling.
Yeah.
And I was just so lucky because I never had a sore throat. So I could do death metal vocals all day without any side effects. And so we just started writing our own material immediately. Calvin liked the more extreme metal, so his riffs were a bit more extreme. And Andrew liked the more sort of Candlemass, heavy, slow riffs.
Doomy stuff.
Yeah, and the combination of both guitar players bringing two different styles together meant we were going to form a doom death band. Not just a doom band, not just a death band. We were going to mix the two together, which was quite unusual at that time, because normally you would see the death metal fans over there and the doom metal fans over there. There wasn't much crossing the bridges. But we thought, do you know what? Let's just see what happens. And it could have been a disaster. Everyone could have hated us. But somehow it turned out really, really good. We could go from extreme metal to extreme doom, and then back to 100 miles an hour again, and then back to 6 beats a minute. It was just crazy. And the fans loved it. The first gig we played was in Bradford in a small nightclub called Shades Night Scene. And we were terrified. We were absolutely terrified. We played, I think, 4 songs, all our own music, no cover versions. And everybody loved it. Everybody loved it. So My Dying Bride was born. And we didn't favor death metal over doom, and we didn't favor doom over death metal. We wanted to try and keep a fair balance between both to keep everybody in the band happy, and it worked really well.
So how was it for your voice, the first show? Like you said that you haven't like never lost your voice, so was that also like completely fine to just go up there and do your thing? Or
yeah, it was. Because when you're in the rehearsal room, you think you're giving it 100% when you're screaming, but you're not really. I don't know why. You think you are, but you're not. But when you play live, then you definitely are, because your nerves, your adrenaline are going like crazy.
Adrenaline is the thing most likely.
Yeah. So when you scream, it's even louder than you've ever done it before. And I could feel that thing at the back of my throat going, ah! It was insane. And I went for it so much I almost passed out because I could see bright sparks going off behind my eyes. And I knew I was maybe some blood vessels were popping or something was going crazy. And I could just see these bright lights everywhere. But it didn't matter because the adrenaline was pushing me forward. And I just screamed and screamed and screamed. And it was the birth of live performances for both me and the rest of the guys in the band. And it was the most extraordinary experience I've ever had. It was only a small turnout. You know, the crowd wasn't huge, maybe 25, 30 people. That's all. But I'll never forget it because that was my debut on stage.
Yeah.
And I gave it 100% and the crowd loved it. And obviously at the end of the night, you start to speak a bit deeper because your voice, you know, your throat has warmed up. But throughout my history in My Dying Bride, I've never lost my voice. There's been times when I've had a cold and it's not quite the same, but I've never lost it through death metal. And we've just played the 70,000 tons Caribbean cruise ship,
yeah,
which was amazing. And again, you know, I try and do the best death metal vocals I possibly can. So before each line, I take a massive gulp of air and I try and express myself and roar with as much anger as I possibly can. It sounded fucking amazing. I loved it. It was incredible. And I'm 55 years old now and still no side effects. So I never imagined I would make it this far.
Yeah.
And still be able to do death metal vocals. And I know some older vocalists, they don't bother doing the death metal anymore. It's great when you're young and you're angry and you're crazy at the world, but people mature and they grow older and they think, I don't need to do that anymore. I want to sing in a more clear voice. I'm happy to sing in a clear voice, but I still love doing the death metal vocals and hopefully I'll continue to do them until I drop dead.
Have you done like something to be on shape, or is that something that it's just like natural for you that just remains the same sort of?
It just comes out like that. There's no training, there's nothing at all. It just comes out like that. And I remember I was taking part in a football competition 15 or 16 years ago. And it was for older gentlemen, and the people organizing it wanted to see how fit you were, and one of the tests was to blow into a tube to see what your lung capacity was like, so you're not puffing and panting and dying on the field. And the first time, because obviously I've been doing vocals, and the rest of the guys were fat smokers, so the first time I blew into this instrument, I blew it off the scale, and the guy's like, we've never seen this before. It must be faulty. We'll reset it and do it again. And I took a massive breath and I blew it off the scale again. And they're like, my God, we've never seen anything like this. And it's because, you know, for 15 years, I've been screaming and screaming and screaming.
Yeah, you have been training your lungs for 15 years.
Yeah. So I've got massive, powerful lungs. And thankfully, I can still do the death metal vocals. And I enjoy it, you know, because it gives you the chance to let off steam. You know, we've all got issues with the world and we have anger, not anger management, but we're angry at this and we're complaining about that. And I have the ability to let off steam, let off my anger and do the death metal vocals. And it really, really works. It just makes you feel great once you've got all that energy out of you. It's an amazing feeling.
Is that something that got you like hooked into singing at first, or like more extreme type of vocals also?
Well, actually, I enjoyed doing the extreme vocals early on, but I also felt that people couldn't hear the words I was saying, and I was paying a lot of attention to my lyrics. I wanted my lyrics to be special. And so I thought to myself, hang on a minute. It's okay doing extreme death metal vocals, but people can't understand all the words. You're putting a lot of work and effort into telling stories, and no one either cares or they can't understand it. So that's when I think it was second album, maybe Turn Loose the Swans, I started to do some more clean vocals. because I wanted people to hear the words I was saying. And I knew I wasn't a very good vocalist, but it didn't matter to me because I was familiar with people like Bob Dylan. He's a great vocalist, but he's not a great singer.
Yep.
Leonard Cohen, Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger is an amazing frontman, but he can't really, he can't.
Not the best vocalist.
Yeah, so I think I realized if you can deliver your words with passion, it doesn't matter if you get the right notes. The people accepting it will accept it because the way you deliver it with tears in your eyes, you mean it and you really, really mean it. It comes from the heart. Then it doesn't matter if you get some of the notes wrong. Just go for it. And it's such honesty. And I think people like that.
So when you have done the first like longer tours, how was it for you to do like show after show after show? Was that like a learning experience for you?
Yeah, it was. But again, the vocals, I had no problem doing the vocals. It was amazing because I think the first time we went to Europe, we were playing with At the Gates. And gosh, this is 1,000 years ago. And we played some great venues, Holland, Belgium, Germany, and it was just incredible. The fans were going nuts. There was stage diving and all sorts of crazy shit going on. And it was the most amazing time of our lives. We were young and we were virile and we had a message to deliver. And we delivered it in the most ferocious way when we were doing the extreme metal stuff. And then when you're playing a song like Sear Me, one of the Sear Me's, the second one, people just stopped. They stopped. The mosh pit stopped. The stage diving stopped. And everyone just held their breath while we played the slow stuff with the violin. And it was almost like people were recharging their batteries, getting ready for the next extreme song. And then we'd play Forever People and they'd all go fucking crazy again. And it was absolutely brilliant. So we would lift the crowd up and then we'd bring them back down again and we'd lift them up and bring them down. And that's kind of how we perform now. We try and make sure that there's not, when we do a gig, it's not, don't put all the death metal songs in. You've got to have variety to keep it interesting. And we want it to be interesting for ourselves as well. We don't want to do the same stuff over and over again. We need to keep variety because it keeps us interested as well as the fans.
But that's also for me, if I go to a show where like there's like 4 different death metal bands playing in a row, that's very, very heavy night to handle, like music wise. So I also like some variety like between the bands. So it's better that there's like 4 different types of bands playing than 4 same type of bands.
Yeah, you're right. And we are lucky enough because of that, our style of music. We can play Inferno in Norway, and then we can play regular festivals like Grasspop, and then like Gothic festivals like Mera Luna. We can play all those different areas because of the variety and the style that My Dying Bride delivers. We've got the Gothic elements, we've got the extreme metal elements. And I think it's nice because when we play Mera Luna, we're one of the more metal bands there. And when we play Inferno, I mean, there's a lot of extreme bands there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder, why have they invited My Dying Bride? Are they going to hate us because we're not extreme enough? They absolutely loved us.
Yeah, for sure.
We're just doing something a bit different and we're passionate about what we do. We don't just walk up on stage with our leather trousers and our sunglasses on our head and Jack Daniels, hey man, let's rock. We don't do any of that bullshit. We arrive, we are terribly nervous, even still today, terribly nervous. And we walk on stage, awkward people, terrified. And we just deliver the music with as much passion and emotion as we can. And then we leave. There's no rock and roll. There's no, okay, let me hear the guy sing, yeah. Let me hear the girl sing, woo. There's none of that. We just do what we need to do and we leave. And people seem to appreciate that.
So now we are talking about shows. Do you have some kind of like special way to prepare the voice for the show, or are you the old school type of guy that you just go up on stage and warm up during the show, or how does it happen for you?
Yeah, when we are arranging the set list, I try and make sure that there's some clean vocals at the beginning.
Okay.
Because that will be the warm-up. I don't do anything backstage. I'm not going "Whoo!" or any of that, none of that. The first song is mostly clean vocals. There might be some death metal, but not too much. And those clean vocals are enough to warm the engine. They get the motor running. And once the motor's running, I introduce, like song 3 will be more death metal vocals, song 4 a little bit more. And obviously it works its way down. And then the second part of the show, anything goes. It can be, you can still get songs that's all clean vocals. And then, you get Turn Loose the Swans or something like that, or She Is the Dark. But once you've warmed up, only takes a couple of songs. Once you've warmed up, all hell breaks loose.
So are there like some specific foods or drinks that you want to have before the show that you have felt that they help you with the singing, or something on the opposite side that you don't want to take, that you felt that they harm you with the singing?
Well, I don't eat before shows, but that's a nervous thing, though. It's got nothing to do with my voice. It's just because I get so nervous. If I eat within a couple of hours of the show, I'm just going to be sick everywhere, and I can't do that. But that's got nothing to do with the vocal cords. In the studio, I do like to drink milk, because milk has a kind of film which coats your throat.
Yeah.
Allows you to do the vocals without... was just much easier. It's so much easier. But weirdly, I've never done that live.
Why?
I've no idea, because I think maybe one day we were somewhere where the milk is a bit different from English milk. It may be pasteurized, more like a cream. And I said, "Can I have a glass of milk?" And it was this horrible warm shit. And I thought, "Whoa!" So now, all I have before I go on stage is like one small beer.
Okay.
But that's to help my nerves calm down a little bit, and just to keep my vocal cords moist. And I always have 2 drinks on stage. I always have some beer, because I like a bit of beer, and I always have water. And after every single song, it's a little bit of both. Just to keep the moisture there. But nothing... That's it. There's nothing really before I go on stage. And it's just beer and water on stage, and a lot more beer afterwards.
But that's fine. So
that's fine. The job's done.
It's for the recovery of the vocal cords. So you can always say it like that.
That's very true. That is very true. But I find performing live very difficult, because I think sometimes the songs are quite emotional. And if I have to sing them, I become emotional, and it's difficult, and it's tiring, and it plays with my mental attitude. And so when a show is over, it's a massive relief. The stress is gone, and it's a huge relief that it's over and I survived. So I have a few beers as a sort of celebration, because it doesn't feel like a gig. It feels like you have to do like a driving test or an examination, or remember when you were younger and you liked that girl, but you didn't have the courage to go and talk to her because your stomach is going crazy and you feel terribly nervous and anxious. And that's how I feel before I go on stage. And it's hard work all the way through the show. So when it's over, it's a huge relief, and it's nice to relax and calm down after a gig.
But I guess it also tells about you that you just care for the art.
Yeah, but I sometimes don't want to. I sometimes want to run on stage and go, yes, let's fucking rock. But I can't. It's not in my soul. It's not in me. But I love it when I see other people do it, and I think, why can't I do that? But it's just the style of music, the nature of my personality. It's just not me. I can't do that.
Every singer is different.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So you've released like 13 albums with My Dying Bride, and now the 14th is up and coming. But are there like some specific albums that you could pinpoint where you have felt that you've taken like big step forward as a singer?
Well, I think Turn Loose the Swans was where I first started to do clean vocals, but only a little bit. But I guess The Angel and the Dark River, the third album, I did even more clean vocals because I felt more confident, and people weren't laughing. After that, I think it was Like Gods of the Sun, and I could be wrong, but I believe Like Gods of the Sun has no death metal vocals at all. Now that upset a lot of fans because they were thinking he's not doing death metal vocals anymore.
Yeah.
They've moved on to something different. And I did all the press and interviews. And I told people, no, I will do death metal vocals again. For this album, it wasn't appropriate. And I think some people didn't believe me, but it didn't matter. And the next album had death metal vocals on. So I think there was a slow progression, beginning with Turn Loose the Swans, where I thought to myself, right, you want people to hear the words you've worked so hard on, so sing them clearly. And so Turn Loose the Swans for me was the album where I found the courage to do clean vocals so that I could express myself more and allow people to enjoy the lyrics that I'd written. Because I don't write lyrics in 2 minutes. I spend a long time making sure they're absolutely perfect for me and that they express my inner thoughts and my ambitions and my horrors and my ideals. And they are written in a kind of old-fashioned poetical fashion, and they take a long time to write. And so I wanted people to hear the words I was saying, so I clarified the vocals a little bit, and it helps. But yeah, I guess Turn Loose the Swans was probably that very first stepping stone.
And I guess that was like super important that you could do, like, for yourself, that you could do an album without that growling. Because something, I guess that's for you as some kind of big step, I would imagine.
Yeah, because I hadn't sung in a clean vocal, even in front of the other members of My Dying Bride. So when I was writing the lyrics and in my own home and thinking to myself, I'm going to sing these in a clean vocal, I was terrified about doing it in front of my friends, the rest of the band. So at rehearsal, I had to explain to them all first, right, when I get to line number 6, I'm going to sing it in a clean voice. And they're all like, okay, great. And no one cared. No one laughed and no one thought, what's going on? It doesn't sound as good. Why are you not doing the brutal vocals all the time? And because I got the confidence, because the guys didn't laugh and they thought it was a good idea, then that allowed me to do more and more and more and express myself further. And that also helped expand my writing as well, because when you realize you are able to express your words with clarity, you want to write even more impressive lyrics so that even more people can enjoy it. So it really helped me express myself even further by doing the clean vocals.
But have you ever like put like a lot of effort also to the like growling so that you would be like more, I don't know what's the correct word for it, but like more articulate with the screaming and growling so that people would also understand that like more well?
Yeah, I mean, when I do the death metal vocals, I am actually trying to do the words. Sometimes you think you can just scream any old shit, but you can't. And so I still struggle to remember all the lyrics. And when we play a song like To Shiver in Empty Halls, it starts off immediately with death metal vocals, and most of the song is death metal vocals. There's a couple of clean bits, and it's a big one to sing live, but it feels quite empowering to be able to sing line after line after line in a strong voice. And you've got to remember that when you write the lyrics, there has to be breathing space.
Yeah.
Because when you're going to sing this live, if you've got 10 words to sing, you're going to have to go like a bloody dog. And then at the end of it, take a deep breath. And I try not to do that. I try to make sure you do 2 or 3 words, then a huge breath, then deliver the other words, then a huge breath. So you have control over it. If you're trying to squeeze in too many words, you'll lose control. And the last few words will be like a whimpering dog rather than have the power because you're running out of breath. So it makes more sense when you're writing the thing at home, beware of the fact that you will have to sing this live And if you've crammed 100 words into one breath, you're going to really, really struggle. So you need to beware of your breathing.
Was that something that you were also aware, like already on the like first albums, or did you just learn this like through time that maybe I just cannot do this live like this?
You got it. You got it. Yeah. I can't remember what song it was. Erotic literature, perhaps, or something like that. No, it was the second part of Symphonia Infernus et Spira Empyreum. This massive long 12-minute song. The first half is doom, the second half is death metal, and oh my god, it is just and that's fine in the studio because you can sing every other word, then go back and sing the other ones. So it's fine in the studio. The first time we played it live, oh my god. After a while, I was just going, and it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I mean, with practice, it became easier, but that was a shock. That was a real shocker to sing. So yeah, that was when I realized you've got to be a bit more careful with the spacing of the words.
So the upcoming album entitled Immortal Binding will be released on 19th of April. Is there like something vocal-wise that you haven't done before?
That's a good question. It sounds boring, but I don't think there is. I mean, I sometimes like to do double track the vocals. If there's a line that I think would be nice with some double tracking, it's almost like you're harmonizing with yourself almost. And that works quite well. But if you do it too much, it loses its effect. And I think I did too much on the previous album, The Ghost of Orion. I doubled up the vocals for every single line. And it kind of lost its way a little bit. It was no longer special because it was there all the time. And so I learned my lesson. And so with Immortal Binding, there were certain select lines where I said to Mark, the producer, I'm going to sing this line twice or even 3 times, because sometimes you can sing like that. Sometimes you can sing like that. And you put them together and it works really, really well.
Sounds good. Yeah.
You can't do it live, of course, but that's a different story. So I told Mark, I'm going to double track some of the vocals, but only where I think it will embellish the song and make it sound better. I'm not doing it all the time because it will lose the effect. I think with each album, you do want to try to be better than your previous albums. And so when it's come to the clean vocals, I try to push. I know I'm not a great singer, but I have my limitations. But within my limit, I can still push to the very boundaries of my abilities. And I can now hit more notes than I could 10 years ago, but I'm no Frank Sinatra. And I know that. And I appreciated that years and years ago. And there are just things I'm trying. There's a line in, oh gosh, I can't fucking remember. The second of 3 Bells, I think. And as the music's like an acoustic intro, and I sing Who Will Be My Son, but it's in such a deep voice. It sounds like there's an effect on it, but there isn't. When you bend your neck, when you look up, there's clarity coming from your vocal cords because of the way they're stretched.
Yeah.
When you want something deeper, you look down. And when I was in the studio, normally you have the microphone sat there and the pop shield and you sing directly at it. But I told Mark I want to do this deeper. So we lower the mic, put the pop shield above it, and then I sing much closer, and then my voice becomes much deeper. And that was what I did at the beginning of second of 3 Bells. And I've never done that before, but it's something I wanted to try. I'm not breaking any new boundaries here, but I'm just trying to keep my voice interesting, because I think it's nice to have variety, because I do death metal vocals, I can do black metal vocals, normal singing, whispering, talking, and I like to have all these tools at my disposal so that the songs will remain interesting from the beginning to the end, because I've seen some bands. One of them was on the cruise ship recently. I thought that I'm not going to name them, but I thought the music was great. And when the singer came out, I thought he was great to begin with. But then every single song, he delivered the same vocal style.
Yeah.
Every single song. And I thought, I'm bored now.
You've seen it after 3 songs.
Yeah, exactly. And I just thought to myself, well, I'm glad I don't do that. I try and give some variety to people, because I would get bored if I did the same thing over and over again. And if I would get bored, the fans would get bored. And I don't want anybody getting bored. So I will talk and I will whisper. I'll do deep stuff and I'll scream my guts out to keep that variety alive.
So do you have a specific way to hold the microphone when you perform? Does it depend on whether you are like singing or screaming or...
No, generally, if I'm doing clean vocals, I pop the microphone on the stand. I don't know why. It just gives me something. Normally, the clean vocals, they seem to be more passionate. So I think I caress the microphone stand like it's a woman, and just you know what I mean. It's a prop. It becomes a prop.
Yeah.
I just hold the mic in a normal fashion and deliver it. And obviously it also helps because I have the monitors there. And that's the sweet spot where I can hear the notes I'm trying to sing. If I'm singing in a clean vocal and I'm wandering off over there, I don't have the benefit of the monitors. So I can't tell if I'm in tune. So when it comes to clean vocals, I will generally stand between the monitors. The mic goes back on the stand and I will do the clean vocals. And it kind of gets fans excited because they know when I pull the mic off the stand, there's some noise coming. And it doesn't matter where I'm stood on stage. When you're doing the death metal vocals, it doesn't matter. You don't need to hear it because you know it's coming out. And in the old days, I made the common mistake that a lot of guys do. This is going to be terrible radio, but you quite often, to get a deeper voice, you would put your hand right over the microphone and create, and then you would just go, ooh. I mean, that was all right, but it wasn't really effective. Now I just hold the mic exactly. Clean vocals is like that. Death metal vocals is like that. But you really get it in there, though. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you hit your own teeth because, you know, there's a bit coming up and you're going fucking crazy. And then you go, and you smash yourself in the face. And you've got, you know, you're all over it. You're not like this. You know, like that. You know, you've got to be on top of it. It's a weapon, and you've got to fucking really mash it to death to get that full delivery.
Have you ever hurt your teeth because of that?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. It is what it is. Microphones are surprisingly hard.
You tried it few times.
Yeah, and
the microphone wins always.
And there are times as well when I'm overtaken by the emotion and I'm rolling around on the floor. And there's been times where I've put the microphone on the floor and my hands are fucking doing something else, but I'm still singing in the mic, and the mic's just lying on the floor, and I'm just moving near it and singing and then rolling away, and then I roll back to it and I sing a bit more, and then I'm crying somewhere on the floor, and then I come out of the zone and I don't know where the fuck I've put the microphone. It's, you know, because you lose yourself in the moment. You get carried away by the emotions, and you don't know what's going on. You don't care what's happening. You just do what you need to do. And then when it's over, you wake up, the spell is broken, and you're like, that great. And sometimes I'm facing the drummer and I thought I was facing the crowd. You know, you open your eyes like that. Yay. Oh, hello. And then there's the audience are behind me. And where's the microphone? It's right over there. How did it get over there? I become possessed by the characters that I wrote about. And most of the time, the characters I wrote about are having a terrible existence. And I become those people. I become those characters. And therefore, I'm having a terrible time on stage as well, which is why I don't know what the fuck I'm doing half the time. I just feel compelled to do it. And sometimes, yeah, I'm sure some people at the back will be laughing, thinking this guy's fucking nuts. But the real diehard, you know, the fans of My Dying Bride, they know what I'm like. They know that that's the way I perform. I can't help it. It's just the way it comes out. And I think they appreciate it.
But then you're at least giving like 110% for every performance that you do.
Yeah, I do. But I have to. I can't. There's no half measures.
Yeah.
You deliver everything or you deliver nothing.
I have few questions left, and the second last one actually goes, what were your parents' reactions when they heard you growling your lungs out?
Well, unfortunately, my mother had already passed away before My Dying Bride had formed. But my father, he loved Elvis Presley. And
so you delivered something different.
Just a little bit. When I played a song to him at home. I mean, I can't remember what song it was. It was obviously quite an early one, possibly from the first album or the first EP. We got about 2 minutes in, and my dad just said, "That's fucking shit." He said it sounds like someone flushing the toilet and someone mowing the garden with an electric lawnmower. He says, "That's what it sounds like." And I said, "Brilliant, because you are not our audience." So it was absolutely fine. So he thought we were shit. He never ever saw us live. He's gone now as well. But friends of ours who know nothing about metal, they came to see us. And these are older people as well. And they came to see us. And their experience of heavy metal was what you heard on the radio. So we invited them to a show we did in London. And, you know, they only know me as the nice everyday Aaron. They don't know me as the person on stage. So when we performed the first song, they were like, "What the fuck is going on? This is the guy we sit and have cups of tea with and talk nicely about, you know, whatever. What's going on?" They couldn't believe it. And when I did the death metal vocals, they'd never ever seen or experienced anything like that before, and they were blown away. And when I spoke to them afterwards, they were shocked. They were, you could see they were mesmerized. They weren't ever going to be fans, but because it was such an extreme experience for them, they didn't know what to make of it, and they just thought it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. But they never came to see us.
But by the time you started your band, that was so, like you said, it was so new thing, like even to the whole world, that nobody who heard it for the first time wasn't like in any means prepared for that.
No, that's true. And it was great. And all that was because, as I say, half the band liked doom, half the band liked death. I was obsessed. I like Celtic Frost were doing a bit of the both. You know, they were death metal and doom, a bit of black. I was a big fan of Candlemass. And then we everyone loved Slayer and Metallica. And then Calvin liked, gosh, can't remember now. It was a long time ago. But just that combination, that variety. So Calvin would bring a smash your face in riff, and it's brilliant. We all played it, and it's fucking great. And then Andrew would bring in something a bit more doomy, which went on and on and on. And then Martin would put the violin on top, and then we'd go into death metal violin again, death metal guitar again, and it just worked. Just having a lovely balance of death and doom, and the violin added a gothic element too. So we were able to straddle different genres by combining all these elements. And as I mentioned, it could have been a disaster. Everybody could have hated us because there was too much of one thing and not enough of the other. But thankfully, we seem to have got the balance just about right, where we seem to keep a lot of people happy.
Yeah, but that's the beauty in it, that you were actually doing something new with your music.
Yeah, and it did help having the violin with us, because I know you could argue that Paradise Lost were a couple of years ahead of us. And weirdly, we're on the same label and from the same town. But I think with the addition of the violin, it gave us more of a slightly gothic element to our music, which just helped because nobody else was doing violin. Again, Celtic Frost used stringed instruments on some of their records, but we were able to do it live as well, which was mesmerizing for the fans. They back then, you did not expect to see a heavy metal band with a violin player on stage. And so it was an amazing combination.
last question, any kind of advice that you would like to give to a young metal vocalist who is just about to start the journey? Anything that comes into your mind?
Well, as I mentioned before, some of the other vocalists that are like heroes of mine, you do not have to be able to hit all the correct notes, providing you deliver your words with passion and with a big heart. You've got to be into your music. You can't. I've seen bands who they form because they want to get the chicks and they want to get the money, and it fails because their heart is not in it. They're doing it for the wrong reasons. You've got to be into it. And I think actually it helps to be terrified, because that gives you an edge. That keeps that adrenaline coursing. It makes the blood course through your veins so much faster, which makes you tremble, sometimes with excitement and sometimes with terror. But it keeps you on edge, and it allows you to deliver great waves of emotion. And not everybody will like it, but not everybody likes anything anyway.
Yeah.
So long as you are pleasing yourself and you're able to master the art of projecting your thoughts into an audience, then that is better than hitting the right notes. You don't have to be Mariah Carey. You just be yourself, and it doesn't matter if some of the notes are shit. No one gives a fuck. You just give it 100% and you can't fail.
Thanks a lot for taking the time to do this with me. It was a very good one, actually.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.